Namaste. We're back. We're operating at full capacity, hopefully, on Facebook. So welcome to all who are joining us through the live stream. It's a pleasure to have everyone in the physical and virtual sanctuaries. As always, I am deeply grateful for our time together on a Sunday morning where we get to really connect. And I was just sharing with the group that's here that this connection is really to the very essence and heart of who we are as human beings, but more essentially as divine beings having this human experience. That we're here on a treasure hunt. We're here to uncover the greatest gift that can be bestowed in creation, and that is the divine image within you. And so this is really a journey of self-discovery. And in this journey of self-discovery, what's so paradoxical, as many of us already know, is that you have to lose the self that you know in order to find the self that is truly the image of the divine. So it appears at first sometimes to be bitter medicine. But then in the end, it's sweet. Now, the rabbis play on this idea that if you're seeking to gratify the false self, the medicine is oftentimes very sweet in the beginning and very bitter in the end. When you're looking for the true self, of course, it reverses because you have to deny yourself that you know. You have to undergo this stripping away, this via negativa, this way of negation that all the great masters, all the great wisdom traditions speak of. And human beings have a natural aversion to this apophatic, this negative way of approach to God. And yet, it is this self-discovery that each and every one of us longs for. Because when we say self-discovery, what we really mean is entering into the oceanic presence of divine love. And this divine love is so infinite and so supremely intelligent that it's giving us everything that we need more than we can think or imagine. And so when we direct our attention away from the false self and towards the true self, it will appear at first to oftentimes be a sacrifice, a giving up, a letting go, an undoing. And yet, when we begin to really start to feel this inner radiance as the veils of the false self are thinning, we begin to embark on this ecstatic journey where we are being gifted everything before we can even think or ask. And so this is what we want to do this morning in looking at Rumi and A Course in Miracles especially, to recognize that we all are inheritors of this sacred self, this divine gift. And it's to be found within the inner temple. So I invite everyone to take this journey without distance to this place within the heart. And so we just want to prepare the mind by quieting down and feeling into the present moment as the bell brings us fully into the now. slow down the mind by simply deepening and slowing down the breath. It's very important that we entrain the mind, the heart, and the body into one steady flow. And this is accomplished most easily by slowing down and controlling the breath, deepening. And even if you can't sense it, imagine it, that there is a brilliant light, like a shining sun above the crown of your head. And it's moving downward and entering into the top of your head. And this descending of the light centers within the pineal gland or third eye area of your brain. And it's here where your inner vision and the spirit's vision begin to merge and integrate. Let your eye become single. And allow this descent of grace, this divine sun, to continue its journey down into the heart center, and allow that inner vision to move with it down into the center of the heart, so that you can sense the opening of the eye of the heart. And as this light increases its radiance and its strength within you, you may even have this natural instinct to cleave to it, to hug it, to fall into its bosom, to surrender yourself to it, to melt into it, to fully let go as if you're hugging an elder brother or a parent or a master or an image of the divine. Just let go and allow yourself to join with this light within the heart, this light of grace. And as you continue to open, you want to be totally transparent for this light to have its way with you, to work inside of you, that you are taking a vow or making a promise to uncover all of your hidden spaces this morning. Allowing this light of grace to shine within you, to purify you, to cleanse you, to radiate its love within you in all the different parts and dimensions of you. And so in the final moments of this meditation visualization, just feel yourself open, childlike, and recognize you're in the presence of the light that lights the worlds. It has come for you this morning. It has called you by name. And it says to you, enter the temple and be at rest. And so it is. So our first poem that we want to look at that will hopefully fan the flames of the heart comes from Book 1 of Rumi's Masnawi. This is his great epic. And this is what he says in the opening poem called The Song of the Reed. It's towards the end. When shunned by the loved ones all, the lovers just a screen, a dead thing, while the loved one lives unseen. When shunned by love, you're left with emptiness. A bird without its wings knows such distress. How can my mind stay calm this lonely night when I can't find here my beloved's light? Love wants its tale revealed to everyone, but your heart's mirror won't reflect the sun. Don't you know why we can't perceive it here? Your mirror's face is rusty. Scrape it clear. So this idea of polishing the mirror of the heart, that as the image of the divine, we are designed, created to reflect the light of the source and shine it, radiate it from our mirror into other mirrors. But we can't sense it or know it as long as our mirrors are covered over with the grime and the rust and the veils of false thinking, our own self-will, etc. And so this idea of polishing the heart is one of the main focuses that starts our spiritual journey, because remember, we can entertain ourselves all we like with theology and spirituality and metaphysics, and our hearts could stay veiled our whole life experience, and then we realize that we haven't really known anything truly. We've simply entertained ourselves and talked about it. And so this style or approach or method of spirituality is a very intimate experience where you are looking for everything that blocks the light within you and having the willingness, the courage, and the devotion to surrender it. That's why he'll say in A Course in Miracles, don't go seeking for love. Love is oceanic. Love is infinite. Love is everywhere. Love is permeating every atom, every pulse, every breath. You're swimming in God's love. So don't go looking for it. It's like a fish looking for water. Rather, he says in the Course, look for where you're blocking it. Look for those parts of the self that are veiling it from your awareness, and be ready and willing to bring those dark spots within your mind into the center of the heart and allow them to rest on the altar and be shined away. Those dark spots of pride. That's one of the things that I find, as I continue on my journey, especially when I'm meeting people who are very mature and seasoned and have been spiritual for a long time. We can all reflect this for one another, and it's very confronting sometimes when we aren't aware of our own spiritual pride, that we think we already know. And so this moment is the moment where something in us is veiling this oceanic presence, and oftentimes in such a group, that something is, I know this already. I know what to think about this already. And what we're discovering, as Rumi just said, how can my mind stay calm this lonely night? He says, the loved ones all, the lovers just a screen, a dead thing, while the loved one lives unseen. So there's this outer self that we all have been identified with. The self that represents the body life. And that self thinks it knows. It has its own will, it has its own thoughts, it has its own emotions. And it has lived this earth journey up until now as a seemingly self-sufficient, separate being. And this is the grand illusion. And this is where the spiritual work must be done on the beliefs that keep this separate self alive as if it were real, when in fact, according to the great masters, it's really dead. It's unreal. And we've been keeping these dead ideas about ourselves alive. And it's lonely. It's depressing. It doesn't give us any substance or truth. So that's the bad news, right? And sometimes we come to this conversation and we're hearing sort of the bad news, but it's only to contrast it to the good news. The good news is you have been answered. You have been given the gift. So get what's in the way out of the way. Bring the darkness to the light, and you will know the beloved. Love wants its tale revealed to everyone. So in listening as I am in speaking, let's see if we can all sort of relax and gravitate towards this deeper frequency within the heart, within the core, where we can join in this spiritual space and approach the door of love together this morning. That all of our hands collectively will become one hand to open that door, and collectively as one self enter in. That's the shift in consciousness. We go from being this isolated self to knowing that we're the one self in all beings. And so we make this journey this morning for everyone and with everyone. That's why there's that beautiful section in the Manual for Teachers in the Course where he says, how many teachers of God does it take to save the world? And the answer is one. Because when a teacher of God fully knows him or herself and enters into the source and allows that light to shine completely as the one self, then everyone gets that frequency. Everyone receives that grace. And so we can then benefit by that gift together this morning and join the chorus of one voice. So clean the mirror as we move through this. Be very watchful as these little scraps come up, these little dark spots may come up through the self-will, the ego thoughts, and the ego emotions, the ego imaging of your past. Whatever way there is the frequency of separation, just spot it, recognize it, and know that you've joined that light of grace within your heart. And you're looking to surrender it, not for an isolated self alone. You will experience the benefits within your individual life, but you will also elevate the world. And God knows we all need it right now. Remember, we keep coming back to that passage in the New Testament where it says the whole world is groaning in birth pangs, waiting for the revelation of the sons and daughters of God, that we can bring this light into this dying and ailing world, into our relationships, into every dimension. Keep it at the front of your mind that your heart's mirror won't reflect the sun until your mirror's face is clean of the rust. And the way that it is clean, so this is where we're going to move forward in just a moment, but really important instruction here is because this is a living conversation. This is to elicit a direct and immediate experience of grace for you this morning, for us. So as the cleaning process is going on in this conversation so that the heart can become more and more reflective of this divine light, remember the cleaning product isn't in your hands. The disinfectant and the product that takes the rust and the grime off your heart is the grace light. What we have to do is accept it, give our consent to allow its working to take place. So it's very much a surrendering to this process, to this correction. And then we'll look at one more poem from Rumi. And this is the story of the person who knocked on the door of his beloved. A man knocked on his lover's door one day. "Who is it?" he heard his beloved say. He said, "It's me." She answered, "Leave at once. There isn't room for such raw arrogance. Raw meats cooked just by separation's flame. What else can cure hypocrisy's deep shame?" He wandered off in pain as his heart burnt, in exile from the one for whom he yearned. Matured before then going back once more, and walking to and fro outside her door. He tapped the door, now suffering nerves inside. Not to let slip a wrong word, how he tried. His sweetheart then responded, asking who was at the door. He said, "None, love, but you. Now you are I. Please enter in this place. Because for two eyes here, there isn't space." That's the gift. That the I am literally becomes God's I am. That we have that life-transforming experience and know that the other I am John, I am this body, I am the separate self, is the immature, wandering, separate, lonely, suffering self. And the world is like we said last time, is the Babylon, the empire of illusion that will keep that separate I am entertained, in conflict, in all types of worry and anxiety, in hopes, in fears, in lusts. And those are many who walk that wide path of Babylon's destruction. Many. Very few come to the door of the temple, and when turned away at first, are allowing this burning up of the false I am. The surrendering, the undoing, the breaking, the unveiling. How sweet it is. Do you feel the charge when the lover comes back and the sweetheart asks who was at the door? And he said, none love but you. That false self is totally forgotten. And that's where we can be right now together in this moment. That we can let these words so deeply penetrate the heart that the light does begin to shine away. The barriers, the shields, the blocks that we've had built up as our self-image, our idol, the one that has been afraid and avoiding real relationship, real communication, the real I. That's how intimate this relationship with your source is. It's your I. And how clear the discernment can start to arise within your inner vision, because you'll know the smell and the vibration of the other I once you taste the radiant, real self and its love frequency. You begin to be able to spot clearly and more frequently all of the rust and the grime that still needs to be surrendered so that your heart is totally clean. And you're no longer reflecting a split mind, a mind wandering and lost. It's so interesting. It's like when I was giving these ideas some thought this morning, what occurred to me was the fact that the origin of this outer self, this outer personality, the body ego, where did it begin? Like, we come here not knowing where we've come from. It's just like when we go to sleep at night and all of a sudden we're in a dream space. We don't know how we got into that dream. We just appeared. And now we're going through the experience of the dream. This outer self experience is just like that. We don't know how we got into the mother's womb. And then everything that just seems to follow from that, our whole life journey as this outer self, it's a dream. And as we come closer to the temple's door, we're going to find that we'll remember what preceded the dream. So that's where we are in entering the teachings of the Course this morning. And we want to first discuss this one passage in chapter 14. I know many of you like to know where we are in the text, so you can look at it later. This is chapter 14, section 9. And this is what we read. That the Holy Spirit asks of us but this: bring to him every secret you have locked away from him. Open every door to him and bid him enter the darkness and lighten it away. At your request, he enters gladly. He brings the light to darkness if you make the darkness open to him. But what you hide, he cannot look upon. For he sees for you, and unless you look with him, he cannot see. So this undoing of the false self is not where many of us want to sit and look and experience. You know, it's like I open myself to guidance and I just listen and follow and do what I'm told. And, you know, sometimes I kind of feel this in my heart. I'm like, but, you know, why do you want me to continue saying this? And the feeling that I get, it's really just that feeling is, you know, we are in a very precarious time. And we need this strong medicine. Because what we've been looking at in terms of religion and spirituality, especially for the past 50 years, is the cult of the self. The cult of the outer self. And what makes it happy and how it can be successful. And how it can prosper. And how it can have a good time. And how it can achieve its objectives and goals. And we're entering a time where that is not going to be what gets you through the night. And so here I am, doing my best to give you what I'm receiving for myself. It's all I can do. And it is joyful. It is an experience that I would not trade for anything. So he says in this section called The Reflection of Holiness, that when we came into this dream of time as these separate selves, he calls it the making of time. And it took the place of our timeless self in our awareness. We blocked out timelessness. We went dark to the timeless. And inside of the dark, we woke up in a dream of being a separate self. And so he says the making of time to take the place of timelessness lay in the decision to be not as you were. So you could see what Rumi was pointing out was going to the temple door and realizing there's none other than you. Now that there's only the one eye, you can enter. Because in this space, there isn't room for two eyes. So do the math. We were in that space. That's our origin. Well, we can't remember right now. And the moment, the instant we decided to be another I, we popped out of that space. It's symbolically the forbidden fruit and leaving Eden. We did this on an energetic, existential, cosmic scale. That's why, you know, when we go into these dark spaces of the mind, if we're really doing this archaeology and this deep polishing, you're going to sense and begin to see some of these places of ancient memory. Deep, deep, deep memory within the collective unconscious. To have this collective unconscious opened up and shined with the light from above so that we can then give to everyone what they need. We become reflections of holiness in the world, physicians of God. If you're here to receive the teachings for the cult of the self, you don't want this, and that's okay. But if you're here to truly be, as he says, what you once were, then time will be shined away in your mind, and you will awaken into the timeless. Your heart will be radiating the eternal presence, and that is the treasure. That's the gift. That's the goal that we've been looking for in Babylon and never finding. So the making of time to take the place of the timeless lay in the decision to be not as you were. Thus, truth was made past. Truth was made past. You once were in Eden. You once were in the temple of love, but no longer. That's past. Then he says, and the present was dedicated to illusion. The cult of the self. Instead of God on the altar of the heart, it's my image now. It's my separate self that I listen to, that I identify with, that I'm completely sold out to. So that's the dedication to illusion. And the past too was changed. So now it's the past of the self. And it's interposed between what always was and now. So now somehow is a break in eternity. Now says no to eternity. Not now says no to this all-encompassing eye of love. And if we're saying no to love, then we have to be in a state of fear and anxiety. So then he says, listen to this. The past that you remember never was and represents only the denial of what always was. So when the lover comes to the temple door, finally exhausted, he's burned away the dross within the heart. He has given up all of the dedication to illusion and no longer sees a past from a separate point of view. There is only the beloved. That's all I want. Now he can enter. Now he can be at rest. Now he can be in the embrace of love. Remember, we are doing this collectively, even though we're experiencing it individually. So everyone that is alive, that is life, will be found within the temple. Truly. You're not alone. You don't go into that temple alone. You go into the temple and meet the all and everything and everyone that the all and everything is and created eternal in a state of love and grace. It is a reunion. And it can't be imagined. The ecstasy, the joy of how the tears will be wiped away, the pain gone, the loneliness, a joke. And it's here. Search your mind carefully. So then he says, in the temple, holiness waits quietly for the return of them that love it. For the presence knows they will return to purity and to grace. The graciousness of God will take them gently in and cover all their sense of pain and loss with the immortal assurance of their Father's love. There, fear of death will be replaced with joy of living. For God is life, and they abide in life. Life is as holy as the holiness by which it was created. Can you imagine life as holy? That's why Rumi's saying that when we're in this separate self, this surface personality, we're dead. We don't know life the way it's being discussed here. We're not in life. We're in spiritual death as the outer personality. So this life lives in everything. For holiness created life and leaves not what it creates as itself. Once you're given the gift of life, holiness abides in you as you. Your I and God's I are one. Now, this is strong medicine because we're so acclimated to the world. That's all we've known, really. When we come into this conversation, some of us are familiar and we can sort of navigate and kind of, ride the currents and go up to the altitude, by which it's calling us into this rarefied atmosphere. But many of us can't breathe in that atmosphere. We get dizzy, lightheaded, our heart's pounding. We can't move quickly in this rarefied altitude. And it's because of the junk in the heart. So we're all being called to this. And we're all searching for it. So what gives it to you is the same thing that removed it from your awareness. Your decision. That's it. It's your decision that determines whether you're entering the temple or you're wandering away in darkness. That's how clear and simple is this teaching. You're either allowing the kingdom of darkness to be what you are devoted to, and you're deciding to join that team and maintain yourself. He who gains the whole world will lose himself. Whoever dies to himself will find himself by your decision. All is provided one way or the other. You don't have the option. You're choosing between two different kingdoms. And your decision gives you all of hell or all of heaven. Just like in that ancient, what Jesus in the Course calls that tiny tick of time, when eternity was eclipsed, that was done in a nanosecond, a Planck second, really, where we decided to go our own way, and Big Bang. And this whole menagerie, this kaleidoscopic display of galaxies, stars, and planets unfolded as the environment in which we can go our own way. And the Buddhists got this down with the wheel of life. You ever see this iconography, the Wheel of Life, where it shows the different wandering worlds that you can go in? You have the gods, the angry demons, the human beings, the animals, the hungry ghosts, and the hell beings, and that separate spark goes through all these different experiences time and time again, because at the core of the wheel is the lust, the hatred and anger, and the delusion of being somebody you're not. And therefore you're the wanderer. You're the samsaran. And you're really the one self. You're the Buddha. And the Buddha calls to the Buddha. The Christ calls to the Christ in this moment. And you decide who you are. But in truth, it's already been set in eternity who you are. That's why when you wander, it gets to the point where the pain of being this false self is unbearable. And you cry out. Your pain threshold isn't limitless. There is a limit to how much pain you can endure in the dark. And when you reach that pain, then you'll be ready to do whatever it takes to get into that rarefied atmosphere, because you'll have the experience of really seeing the nature of Babylon, the nature of samsara. And you'll know you could never be happy in any of these wandering experiences. That's why, in sharing this, I've more and more, and Lisa's been a huge help, have recognized that it's not up to me to try to convince anyone. I can't do that. Not my job. Those who have ears to hear will hear. So final stop here. Now here's, again, this beauty that comes in, that, the ego will, and we said this on Thursday night in class, the ego will try to make its dissolving and death very dramatic. And you can sometimes get so bought into the personality and how dramatic the personality is undergoing this deconstruction, leading towards the illumination. And if you're still identified as the unreal, it can go on for a long, long time. You can speed it up by realizing you're not personality. He says, in this world, you can become a spotless mirror. You shine away the false personality and all the rust. You become a spotless mirror in which the holiness of your Creator shines forth from you to all around you. You can reflect heaven here. But no reflections of the images of other gods must dim the mirror that would hold God's reflection in it. Earth can reflect heaven or hell, God or the ego. You need but leave the mirror clean and clear of all the images of hidden darkness you have drawn upon it. God will shine upon it of himself. Only the clear reflection of himself can be perceived upon it. Reflections are seen in light. In darkness they are obscure, and their meaning seems to lie only in shifting interpretations rather than themselves. clean but the mirror, and the message which shines forth from that mirror holds out for everyone to see. No one will fail to understand. It is the message that the Holy Spirit is holding up to the mirror that is in him. Is this making sense? Do you see the power that you truly are? That's the other thing that the conditioned self has embedded within its DNA code. That you're little, that you're vulnerable, that you're within this boundary of flesh and bone. And again, Babylon's system will continue to impact you with the messaging that you're small. And you need the products of Babylon to be big and important. Clean the mirror. Decide for heaven or hell. But no, you're only deciding for yourself. And then all of the earth reflects back to you your decision. And the more committed you are to allowing the doors of your mind to open and to allow the light to shine away your darkness, you'll begin to feel and know this radiation of God's love reflecting within you and radiating out from you. And we all have glimpses of this, don't we? We have those moments where we get to touch and share in that space of real joining. Somebody comes to us hurting or broken, and something gets put upon our heart to give them, and it elevates them. It brings them relief and joy and a sense of hope. We can do this on greater and greater scales with greater and greater intensities of love. So thank you. Blue bag's going to go around. Just as a reminder, if you're joining us on Facebook, you can donate to unityofstewart.org, and please make sure you label it for the 8 a.m. service, and we are greatly appreciative of your support. And so we bless the offering, both here and virtually, that it may be charged with a life of true love and true power that will bring peace and healing to all hearts that are touched by this blessed donation. And so it is. Amen. Any final thoughts from you guys? Comments? You feel so connected today. Excellent, Chuck. You too, Stephanie. Excellent. Excellent. Well, when we make it complex, it's really secretly that we don't want it. Like that's confronting for all of us to know that it is that simple. Yes. And, he even says, if you only knew what awaits you, you would run to it. You would run to it. And it's right here within the heart, a decision away. So I leave you with that, my friends. Polish your mirrors, be lights within the world, and enter the temple of love as the eye of God. And so let's just bless the service by closing with the unity prayer. From this ground, what Meister Eckhart called the Grund, the ground, the essence of the word within us, we speak the word, knowing that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. Have a beautiful and blessed Sunday. Join us for A Course in Miracles on Thursday if you like. Go to my website, living-acim.com. Peace.